Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. You're listening to Sasha Talks Tech, a podcast about technology, innovation, and leadership. Our guest today is Ali Javaid. He's a biomedical engineer and a product operations manager at Intrinsik. He is also a curator at Hello Tomorrow, and he is a very accomplished engineer. Ali, welcome.
Hello, Sasha. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much for joining. So, today we will be talking about hackathons and why it's so important to participate in them. And we will reminisce in our experience with the hackathon that we participated in last weekend. But first, tell me a little bit about yourself, about your background, your career journey, and what brought you to data science.
Right. So it's quite a long journey, but I'm not that old yet. Right. So I grew up in Pakistan and I moved to Hong Kong back in 2013 to pursue my undergraduate in biomedical engineering from the University of Hong Kong. And I graduated back in 2017. And essentially around that time was the initial start of what I'll say is my interest, like my start in the data science. um, right after I graduated. And once I graduated, I had a period where I was kind of um, looking at different options for me, other than just the pure biomedical engineering jobs that were in Hong Kong. And I came across Grom, which later branded itself to Intrinsic. And the co-founder came to me and says, "Hey, I have this role, um, not a full-time role at the moment, but we have this kind of opportunity. We'll be interested to have you look into it." And I was like, I have some time that I can give out and maybe join part-time and see how it goes. And so I joined them initially part-time. And then over the 3 months, we really together worked together to craft a role because there were just two people, and I was the third employee. It was a small startup. So just to kind of give background, what they do is basically we provide software as a service to medical device producers, and complete the digitize the entire workflow of prescribing bespoke medical devices such as orthoses and dental devices. Right. So I joined them initially, and then my first full time role with them was an operations analyst. And the title itself doesn't cover what I was doing because as a team of only three people back then of a small startup, you're actually doing a lot of different things. So I was actually exposing myself to the breadth of doing a lot of like the kind of the things that go into like a kind of a health tech startup. And it will be 3 years in March, but almost 3 years, I'll say. And now I transitioned to an operations manager role, and then from operations manager role to a more one that's focused on the product side because I'm working more on the product in terms of managing and getting the features out, and also at the end of the funnel, the QA and everything. Right. So this is my full-time career. And I've always felt strongly about data science, and I think my interest grew more and more over the past year. And I think one of the driving force for me was that um, in this industry, once I graduated with my undergrad, I saw what the market was really about. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of changes year by year. You have a lot of different things trending every year. And I felt the need that in order to really compete in the market, you really need to upskill yourself. So for me, data science is the process of, or like transitioning to data science, is a process of upskilling myself to get more useful skills. Something that I'm also passionate about, statistics and mathematics. They kind of like align with my passion as well, and really kind of carve my career within the domain of biomedical and healthcare industry, and find kind of a role that's more focused on data science and everything. But that being said, I kept myself open to all the opportunities, and I think that's why my first job experience have been so extensive and broad and helped me really learn so much about other than the technical aspect, I think I learned so much more in the personal growth and the professional area.
Oh, wonderful. So, if our guests were to recreate your career journey and let's say go towards biomedical engineering, would you say they would need to get some sort of developer credentials, or could they go straight for biomedical?
So I think the thing that I struggled with biomedical was that there was, if I were not to pursue the master's and PhD route, there was this technical skills limitations for a lot of undergraduate biomedical engineers, because biomedical engineers is a much more specialized field, and it makes more sense if you're going in the route of the academia where you're having your PhD and you're spending 4 or 5 years of your life in a laboratory and working on it. So what I felt was that the undergraduate like program itself, at least what I had it back in Hong Kong U, was not really enough to equip me with valuable technical skills that were really in demand right outside in the market. Because when I looked at the market outside, a lot of roles were very limited to sales and marketing. I think that's more Hong Kong related kind of setting. But I also felt that if I were to transition to a more like in the tech industry, then I didn't have enough technical skills to kind of start leverage and get into it, transition into it. So I think what I'll suggest is that there will always be an aspect of self-learning, right? And I think whenever, like, my recommendation for all students, biomedical or non-biomedical engineers, just when you're in learning from university, don't rely on university to get you equipped with all the tech and all the skill set. A lot of time you have to go out of your way to pursue it.
Wow, so a person would have to be a self-starter. But I feel like it applies to pretty much any field nowadays. You have to be responsible for your own career journey, your experience, and your knowledge. That's just how it is, and just the name of the game.
Right, right. And I think, and what I came across a lot of people who didn't do much and waited to graduate to see how things goes, right? But I think the clock starts when you're in the freshman of university. You should like it. Like if you don't go and do different internships, or even just go to your professor's lab and like say, hey, can I be a student research assistant for a couple of months? That will help you really teach you so much more about the biomedical engineering setting than you will learn in the classroom. So I think it's the initiatives that really needed for you to really understand what's the setting is before you make decisions on what you want to pursue.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about hackathons a little bit.
Right.
I want to just to those who don't know, I want to make a quick explanation that hackathon is a mashup of the words hacking and marathon. It's where the data scientists get, or not even necessarily data scientists, just programmers or developers in general. They get together and they have limited time constraint and they have to solve a specific problem given. And that's a sort of a competition. The team who completes the task in an allocated time frame and who does it in the best way possible wins. So Ali and I met at the DSGO Data Science Conference last weekend. So for those who don't know, check out DSGO. It's an amazing event to network with people. So let's talk about why should people even join hackathons in the first place? Why is it so important and exciting?
Right. So I also was also one of those people who were hesitant in considering joining hackathon, because I think the word itself is very intimidating. Because if you're not a programmer, or like a programmer who's comfortable coding without relying too much on Google, you'll see that, oh, I have to code something and I don't know how to do that, and it will be so technical, and I can't do that, right? But I think the whole purpose of hackathon is to really give you a taste of proof of concept to MVP to market, right? It really kind of boils down the entire first phase of the startup process, right? Within a weekend, within like 24, 48 hours of the weekend. So you're starting with a quick idea in your mind and you're instantly trying to validate it, right? And then you're instantly trying to create a proof of concept, and then you're instantly trying to pitch it as if like you're pitching for investors, right? So these four are very crucial steps in startups, and they go over the iteration process. And then for some people, it can take 3 months, 6 months, year, 1 year, 2 year, right? And this all condenses to a weekend in a hackathon, right? So it's a really kind of give you a taste of that building a project which has the potential to be realized in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me the most important kind of the significance of hackathon is really to put yourself out there in the most uncomfortable zone when it comes to um, creating a product and selling it in a more simple terms.
I have to agree with you on that one. I feel like it pays off to go outside of your comfort zone for a little bit. I become stronger as an individual and as a professional every time I do it. And of course, there is that fear and intimidation and imposter syndrome. For instance, what if I let my team down? You won't. Nothing's going to happen if the team doesn't win, and it's pretty much the worst case scenario. But it's important to learn and to do your best. Just do your best, and that's all it takes.
Exactly. And it's a very good learning experience because you see people from different, like your teams usually are people from different age groups, industries, skill set, and you're forced to work with these people where you don't even know them that well. And by the time you finish the project, then you start knowing them well, but it's like you're still a very kind of new in terms of the relation with those people, and then you're kind of put with those people to work. So it kind of teaches a lot of those soft skills as well in terms of how you communicate with the team, how you want to present your ideas without coming across as too bossy or as too kind of arrogant, and how do you want to work together and get the best out of everyone to show the best to the judges.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, actually, I remember you mentioned it the other day that you won the third place in a global hackathon a while back. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? How was it?
Right. So that was actually by Techstars. Techstars is a pretty a major organization that organizes hackathons, or what they call it startup weekends. So they name it as startup weekends, which is same as a hackathons actually. It's different branding, and they have it on different themes. And they have it like in different like they have some global ones, which means all different countries have hackathon a particular weekend, and then the winners of all those hackathons will then compete globally. So back in, I think it was October 2017, I joined the Startup Weekend AI. So that the theme of the hackathon itself was AI, and I think that was my first ever hackathon that I joined. So I was also a bit hesitant to join, but I was like, now it's time for me to join. I've missed so many opportunities before. I think now it's time for me to join. Right, and I think that was quite an very interesting experience from because since my first time, I was expecting, okay, I'll be just passively kind of like staying on the sides and learning from people how to do it and get an idea and be in my comfort zone thing. But the reality was completely opposite. And over the weekend, I completely lost my voice as well.
Oh my
Like,
God.
smoking and everything. Right. So it started on Friday. We pitched an idea. I was like, okay, if I'm really to have a very immersive experience, I should go and pitch an idea as well, just for the sake of pitching. It was quite nerving, but I pitched an idea which was about the having an hey, we need to have an AI for the mental health. So it's kind of a rough idea. And then the top 7 or 10 ideas that was selected, one of them was mine. And then it's like, okay, now go and make a team. So I was like, okay, I don't know anyone here. But then the people who listened to our pages were coming to us and kind of say, hey, I'm interested in everything. And then I have to figure out, okay, we need someone technical, we need someone on the business side, we need someone who's a designer. And if we have these limits, then that's good enough. We can start doing. So the team building was also very on the spot. You're kind of meeting people there, starting conversation, and there are like people you'll be working over the next 2 weeks. And when it started, the entire product was that we wanted to create an application which provide a proactive and kind of proactive support to individuals with mental health. And the idea was that we wanted to help them see their physical and mental health completely, and have a much bigger kind of understanding of how things are happening. For instance, one example is that the application will be using one of the third-party app that you use to track your sleep quality, right? So the application will be getting that to the third party that will show, okay, how the sleep quality is. And at the same time, you can also input something like, hey, I'm on this medication for this couple of months. Let's say you're on a depression medication, antidepressant for a while. And the idea was that the application will try to come up with relations between different aspects of your health and try to predict correlations and link that, hey, since you've started this medication, your sleep quality has been affected by this much, or your energy levels have been changed since all these things. And then our demonstration was also, a part of that was also the chatbot support, which was more proactive support. So the idea was that if you're using a tracking to have your heartbeat and everything, and if your heartbeat is a bit higher, so the chatbot will kind of send a message, hey, I see your heartbeat has been increased for a while. Why don't you take a walk at the park nearby to calm yourself and relax and all these things. So this was the kind of the idea we wanted to have, that to provide a supportive support. So this is something we built over the 2 weeks, and I'm going for a little bit long, but at the end, our team won in Hong Kong, and then we had to condense that 5 minutes pitch into 1 minute or 2 minutes video pitch, and then submit it to the global competition. So then there were, I think, 12 teams globally, or 11. And out of those teams, we came third. So it was quite a big achievement also.
So you got awarded the third place in a global hackathon while creating this amazing app. So just to recap, the app picks up on your vitals and gives you recommendations of how to make your lifestyle a little bit more healthy so that you would benefit. So you build this project from ground up in a fixed time frame with the new people, with the absolutely new people whom you didn't even know. What is the mixture of the in-person and virtual hackathon, I'm presuming?
It was in-person hackathon.
In-person hackathon. It was probably before the pre-pandemic life.
Yeah, before COVID.
And you created this product end to end, and you were able to present it to the stakeholders, obviously in a very effective manner, that the stakeholders were very interested, and they may have been technical or non-technical, we wouldn't know. It's so incredible, like how far we can come from feeling that imposter syndrome, and this victory almost starts once we step out of our comfort zone and just give it a try and do our best, because that's what we can do and that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
So let's talk about it a little bit, about the hackathon that you and I participated in.
Right.
in a Data Science Go conference. So since it wasn't your first hackathon, were you apprehensive about the outcome? Because I know I was almost terrified and I was almost scared to join because I wasn't even sure, would I be able to deliver, how high tech the assignment will be, and so on and so forth. So I'm just curious if you probably had similar worries.
Honestly, I was when I looked at the agenda and I saw we had only 4 hours to come up with it. I felt that maybe it's not a proper hackathon. I think it was just more of like it's a smaller version of the hackathon,
It's
right? It won't
express
be.
lane of hackathon.
Yeah, you're not intensively working on a project for the entire weekend. It's just like 4 weeks, and it's like so I was not too worried, and I think that the structure that they have in DSGO was that they wanted to pursue it as a more collaborative instead of as a more competitive hackathon. So that kind of really kind of made me relax. So for me, the main focus for me was that okay, I would like to learn about the data science skills that other individuals in the hackathon will have, and kind of just treat it as kind of like as a casual group project.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I remember when we just started, when we just got this data set, it's that initial fright. It's almost like a fight or flight response when you look at the data set that you've never seen before. Luckily for us, the DSGO was kind to us and they gave us a very clean data set. But
Very
still, there was this moment of fright. It's like, okay, it's on. What do I do?
Right. So I think that at that moment I was super confused because um, the virtual setting really didn't help at all. I think the virtual setting really missed out that entire ice breaking with people and getting your team up and running. Right.
I feel
And
like we dived right into it.
yeah, and I think the also the whole setup of the team building was in a way that we don't know who we are teaming up with, and in that case, I think a big portion of my initial kind of worrying or kind of the time was spent on figuring out okay, how do we get started. But I think that did help us to kind of once we actually had a video call channel, then we started to get gradually um, get in the process of okay, now let's start the project. But I think the virtual hackathon is not a good replacement for an like an in-person hackathon, which means that for virtual the organizers need to do some extra need to take some extra steps in making sure that the teams get started more smoothly, they get support more easily, and they have a bit more time to do that. So that's what I think I learned from that.
Totally. Because I remember you just basically stepped in and you became our leader almost instantaneously. You probably sensed that you had more experience than anybody else on the team. So it was, yeah, it was perfect that you took that role of leadership because we really needed that sense of guidance and direction.
So funny enough, I was expecting to be in a team where we had more experienced data scientists who will be leading, and then I'll say, okay, I can help you with this and that, because honestly, I didn't feel too comfortable in me leading a data science project in a group. Right? If I'm doing a data science project, I'll be taking a lot of time. I'll be Googling a lot of code examples and everything and trying to make sense of it. But in that setting, I completely was completely a novice to really lead it. So I think for me, the reason that I stepped into lead was more about to kind of get started. And I think one thing that was most important was to kind of really compartmentalize the entire project among us because there were like 4 people. We have less than 4 hours back then. And really says, okay, you do this, you do that, you do that, you do that. So I think that was thing that I kind of wanted to focus on. But I think that also in that setting, it's important you don't come across as too kind of bossy or like, hey, I'm the leader, you do this, you do that, and that's all, right? And I think that's kind of really breaks the team. That really breaks that. So I was like being careful of not going that route, but and that's where I think I also feel like if people don't take initiatives themselves, then you have some people step in to do that, right? Um, and yeah, I think that what happened with the other team where it ended up just one guy doing almost everything. That you don't want those kind of things to happen either. So
Yeah, you don't want situation like this neither at the hackathon nor in the real life. It's almost like those school projects that, oh yeah, I have a blank space on my paper and I'll put your name on there. Yeah, we
exactly.
don't want that. Like nobody would want it. But I'm
Right.
very glad you were able to step up into this leadership role so comfortably and with so much ease that it really facilitated our workflow as the team in general. And I feel like, regarding to your previous comment about coming off as bossy, I honestly did not feel this way. I think it's very important for people in general to be open to feedback because that's what makes the teamwork go smoothly.
Mm.
And it's also important to remember that whenever some people have more experience, for me personally, than I do, uh, I always have to remind myself that yes, I should probably listen to what they have to say because they probably have already done the project that was similar to this one.
Right. And I think I'll give the credit of this by working in a startup setup for like 3 years, is that most of the time you don't have guidance and you're taking initiatives yourself and you're learning on the way when you're trying to do something. So whenever there's a project, it's like, for instance, also when I was getting into product and in the QA, a lot of times I actually didn't have any manager or kind of an expert to guide me and say, hey, you need to do this way. It was a lot of like research, trial, error, and a lot of like initiatives, that kind of mindset that, okay, I need to try this out, see how it works, what are the fallbacks, improve, work, feedback, improve, work. So that kind of like iterative process, that initiativeness, is something that I learned by working in a startup setting, I'll say.
So, would you say that the mentality of the startup would be something like fail fast, fail often, and most importantly, fail cheap, so that you can dust yourself off and get yourself back up onto your feet, so you can just rinse and repeat.
Exactly, and I think there there's an aspect of being humble that is useful in order for you to have that mindset of, okay, it's okay for me to fail. And in our company, we do tell people that take ownership, right? It's okay to fail and take ownership. That kind of gives you that understanding of, okay, I failed, which is completely normal, but the question is that, okay, what will be the next step for me and how will I improve that? So that failure to like, that kind of not being comfortable with failing really prevents you from getting yourself out there. And sometimes you might put yourself out in way too uncomfortable zone, and you're kind of like, okay, this is a way advanced setting for me. I can't do that. You need a kind of a gradual process to do that. But it's just that for me, I've always kind of said, okay, this is something I'm familiar with. I am not an expert or don't know that well, but I can try that. So I think in my company, there were a lot of times and say, hey, we don't have a marketing team, but why don't you help us out with this? So it's like, okay, I can help you with creating marketing content, and I can help you with getting marketing data through Google Analytics, and I can set that up for you. I can set up a dashboard for you, and the process, like, okay, I said that to them. I just need to figure out how to work with the Google Analytics, right? And that once I learn, and then obviously how can I improve it in the future and all these things. But that the mindset is that, okay, I can there's nothing for me to stopping me from doing that. I just need to be comfortable with the idea that I can fail, but as far as I have the sense of ownership, I can take ownership and say, hey, I did this wrong because of this. And you have this ownership that really kind of makes you get in that mindset of taking initiatives and being comfortable in uncomfortable settings.
Absolutely. It reminds me of Kirk Bourne's talk at the DSGO when he said one of my favorite interview questions is, tell me about that one time when you failed as a data scientist.
Mm.
And yeah, it really made me think that failure is pretty valuable as a learning process, as long as we are able to learn from our own mistakes and not
Mm.
repeat them, and hopefully even teach somebody else. Let's say when we talk to a new hire, like, oh hey, I tried this and this technique yesterday before you were here and it did not work, so just so you know.
Mm. That's I totally agree, and his point of view was more focused on the science part. That in science, you need to fail at least twice before you figure out the direction where you should be going towards to, right? So you can you need to fail to have those reference points and see, okay, do I need to go towards this direction, towards the opposite direction? And this also happens in life, that you need to fail a couple of times to really see what's wrong.
Yeah, you have to try things in order to see whether they're working or not. And if they're not working, at least you know which direction to go towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
think this is the beauty of hackathons. It's teamwork, collaboration, it's learning, networking, also learning from your own mistakes and each other's mistakes.
Completely agree on that.
Especially, it's a completely special feeling of doing those things under time constraints. It activates some special sort of a fight or flight response in your brain that
Right.
I don't produce the code I produce on hackathons when that I do with my own projects, because there is no time limit. There's nothing that disciplines me or keeps me awake at it.
Mhm.
Completely different feel, absolutely.
Right. And I think in hackathons, the time limit is really balanced by the teamwork, which means that you can probably pull off that project all by yourself, but given that the time constraint, you pretty much have to rely on other people to get the work done. So you really split the entire work between different people. So even if someone is not doing up to what you think they should be doing, or you have that perspective, you still need to find a way to benefit from that person's work, and combine with your own work and create something out of that collaboration. So I think that time restraint forces the collaboration part of the hackathon.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have to agree with that. I feel like in our team, everything just sort of fell into place so effortlessly, because I started coding in Python in the Jupyter notebook. When I saw the numbers, immediately I thought, okay, let me run that linear regression. And then you started tackling Tableau. Marquise started doing some Python, and Mariana also did some Tableau visuals and R programming. It almost felt like each of us immediately found our niche, and
Mm.
we just started chipping away at it, and then quicker and quicker. And almost at the end of the hackathon, we were ready to deliver the product. And I remember thinking, like, wow, we started from scratch just several hours ago, and now we actually have something to show.
Right. I was actually surprised that we were able to pull off all three aspects of that. So for the viewers, the three requirements was that with the data set, we need to do explorative data analysis. We need to do the visualizations, which also comes with the explorative data analysis to get insights. And the third part was the modeling. And I think for the judges, they were not expecting all three, but our team also. And I think pretty much all teams ended up covering all three topics, which I feel 4 hours for to do that is pretty kind of incredible. and the quality of the work also at the end that came out, I was surprised what looking at other teams and how they managed to pull that off in just that amount of time.
I remember being very impressed as well when they were showcasing their findings. I was like, wow, how in such a short period of time, it was really impressive.
Right. And I think to go through over the entire time constraint, what I'm not sure exactly sure about you, but for me it was that okay, I need to come up with these insights, and then work on the storytelling when I'm making PPT, right? Because otherwise, in a normal setting, you're just understanding kind of a data, and you make a visualization, and you get insights from it, and then you go for the next route, and like, okay, maybe I'll explore in this direction. Then you kind of do that, right? For us, what for me was that I went through the most commonly used visualizations, but when we do an exploratory analysis and we had those things, and once we get those data, we just combine them to create a storytelling, which was not the usual way people do, but I think that's the creative so the time constraint also enables creativity among people.
Yeah, I feel like we choose a pretty creative approach. We use data visualizations in the beginning in order to decide what features to use in our model. Because what I saw in front of me was a spreadsheet with a lot of numbers. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so many features, but what features to even consider for the model? Which ones are significant? Just to put things into the perspective, the data set that we got was about predicting the air quality. It has a lot of chemical compounds in it, but the one that I remembered were nitrates, sulfates, and some minerals such as calcium and magnesium. Data set was fairly clean. It did have some missing values, but I remember the first thing I did about it, I was like, okay, let me whip up some correlation heat map just to see if like what variables are correlated, just to see what features to even consider, what influences what. And the way we approached this problem was we did it first with the missing values, and then we dropped the missing values just to see if it influences the heat map at all. So yeah, this was one of those cases when we actually used our visual to build up from. Our visualization wasn't the end point in our storytelling.
Exactly, and I think um, the visualize like the exploratory analysis is the process of understanding the data and the problem. But what I also learned during the process, I'm not sure about you, but I benefited from the domain knowledge quite significantly, because in that time you were to understand the data you're given, and if you're a chemistry student, you don't even need to use the key that much. You'll understand what they're talking about, right? But I feel like some of the people were not really understand, like, okay, what this variable is, what this variable is, right? For example, there were three variables, so we were to predict the total nitrate, right? And then so among the variables, you have a nitric acid, and then you have the nitrate, and the total nitrate was calculated as a sum of both of these, right? So when you blindly make a correlation map, you have such a high correlation between the sum of the nitrate with the nitrate and nitric acid, which makes sense because the sum is the combination of the two. So if you have either of them high, the sum will be high as well, which means the correlation of these three variables doesn't need to be there because it doesn't make sense. And in that case, I felt like if you don't have the domain knowledge, you will struggle a bit or you need more time to really get comfortable with the data, and that's where I've seen so many kind of people talk about the importance of having the domain knowledge, having the knowing the context of the data and like the background, all these things. And I think that was the first time I really realized the importance of the domain knowledge there. So I'm not sure about you, how you found out the data and all these things.
Well, I did have chemistry in college, but it was several years ago. I was able to read formulas and remember the names of the compounds, but that's pretty much as far as I went. I had no prior knowledge of the environmental science and how those components correlate with one another, even if there is any correlation. So actually, I had to look up the Wikipedia article just to see if sulfates can predict the concentration of nitrates in the air. And according to Wikipedia, there was some connection. So that's when I thought, okay, maybe I'm in the right track. After the correlation map, I'll do some feature selection, feature engineering, and just do some simple linear regression. And it ended up working out. Our model performed at 87% R squared.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. And I think I'm not like an expert in chemistry, but beyond just understanding the chemicals, I also struggle with the understanding the data set completely fully. And I think that's where I decided, okay, I don't need to spend too much time understanding that because we need to deliver something. But given the straightforward question they had, like we need to predict the nitrate, I said, okay, let's keep the visualizations and the maps all with respect to the total nitrate. And I think once you have that high level kind of focus, then it's easy to kind of go through and create an overall project in a short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you did map that geospatial data. Both you and Mariana did those Tableau visualization, and once you guys did that map, it started making so much sense that there was more pollution towards the Southern California, probably based on the tourist carbon footprint or something like that. So yeah, there were multiple approaches that were required for this problem. And I do remember we did get multiple data frames for that particular one. The OCD version of me that doesn't have any time constraints probably would have renamed the columns or organized the data set in a more explicit manner, in a way that the column names would probably be more self-explanatory.
Exactly.
But the hackathon me decided against it because there's no time for it. I'm just going to spend another half an hour just cleaning things up so it's more pleasurable for me to look at. And we're not going to get anywhere. So I had to put my OCD on pause and just continue with my work.
Exactly. And I think a lot of time we were just going with our kind of what we were thinking might make sense there, right? So it's just that you make sense along the way. You don't have to spend too much time to make it sense and everything. So definitely, and I think any project there's a dumb solution which needs to be done straight away, right, as the easy solution, and then there's a more proper way of doing it, a more extensive, a more like kind of have a proper procedure and everything. So hackathon really kind of forces you to think of the most quick solutions, like dumb ideas like that work and get you results there and then.
Absolutely. I struggled a lot with it when I was a student and sometimes as a professional. I get carried away by making things perfect and nicer, but it's also I have to constantly remind myself to focus on MVP. For those who don't know, MVP is a minimally viable product. You create the core of your project first, and then you build outwards. You don't build outer shells before you build the skeleton of your project, because it's going to collapse. It doesn't work like that. So I always have to remind myself, and especially in a hackathon environment, that MVP before anything.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, and speaking of hackathons and dedication, we do have 15-hour time difference, and you did pull an all-nighter participated in the hackathon.
Right. So for me, the conference was 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So which means I didn't have to sleep the entire night. But I was lucky because on Monday it was a public holiday. So that the day I used to kind of reset my sleep cycle back to normal. And yeah, and I think I did have coffee at night. First time ever I'd had coffee after 6 p.m. I'll say, um, but it was the energy in the entire conference, that excitement that was constantly there, that really prevented, like, didn't even make me like yawn once. And even at the end of the event, which was like 7, 8 a.m. From me, when there were this kind of happy hour, these conversations happening, I didn't feel like going back to sleep now. I just wanted to talk to a lot of people there because it was so many interesting conversations happening, so many interesting individuals from like so many different backgrounds there, that I was like, okay, I need to talk to more people, connect more, network more.
Yeah, the networking was on a roll on that event, I have to admit. I was so wired. I met so many interesting people. This was such a great event, and a lot of companies participated too. There were sponsors like Oracle, and yeah, big companies like this. So why would you say companies should be participating in sponsoring hackathons? Because I think companies benefit from those events too.
So when I was in the Startup Weekend AI, during the pitch day, I saw a lot of people from companies, not that were major companies, but professional people who were watching the pitches to connect with people that might be a potential hire for them. So when the companies see individuals applying skill set in such kind of setting, it's kind of one of a very useful kind of trait in a candidate if they're looking for jobs. I think a lot of companies try to do that to look for future hires. So I think that's a very tangible outcome for companies to do that. It also kind of gives them more exposure to in terms of marketing, right? So I think Oracle was obviously a major company, so they don't need that level to market that much. But I think Oracle can convince, because they provided us with their tool platform to use. I think that can help a lot of people that were using it to see how Oracle works, and maybe they go to the company and says, "Hey, I tried this one. Maybe we should consider using this for our solution for this one." And I think depending on the company, for instance, the Scooby AI, which is the hiring one. It's a new setup, and I think given that a lot of the attendees were students and they were will be looking for jobs and all these things, it was the right target audience for Scooby AI to market their product, and get all like more audience for them. So I think it's a combination of marketing, collaboration with things, and it's getting themselves exposure and hopefully getting talent in the company.
So yeah, it's both exposure of the tools and product, as well as just searching through the talent, discovering new talent pool. And I feel like it factors into another reason for people and students, like everybody, to participate in a hackathon. Just you maybe be getting discovered by a big company, and you might even get a job or an internship out of it. Who knows?
Exactly. Exactly.
But let's say if people don't have an opportunity to join a hackathon, if there's none going on, because during the COVID, there probably haven't been much in-person events, and online hackathons, sometimes there is time difference, sometimes there is stable Wi-Fi connection, there are barriers. So what do you think would be an alternative for people to showcase their skills and also practice and keep their skills sharp? Would you say something like Kaggle competitions are comparable?
Definitely. So I think in data science, will definitely. I won't even put hackathons the first priority. I'll put portfolio project the first priority in data science, and I think that's where the Kaggle comes in as well, because you can have a portfolio project that you can compare with the other people. But I feel like it's very, if you want to get started, just pick a data set that you like, and it seems pretty good. and just start working on it. Have a portfolio project ready, share it on LinkedIn, share with people. Go out to existing data scientists and ask for their feedback on it. So try to maybe present it to them for like a 10-minute presentation and say, hey, I come with this, and ask for their feedback on how will they improve your project, and use their feedback to improve it further. And so apart from the portfolio projects and the hack and on using the Kaggle or not, I think LinkedIn is has a lot of people are doing like 100 days of coding challenge, or the X challenge, Y challenge. I think those are pretty interesting to try out as well if you want to try out, because it goes into that aspect. You constantly create content on LinkedIn, you expose yourself, and you learn with other people who are also in the same position as you. And that kind of will somewhat basically replace with the entire working with other people to do that. So I think even your portfolio project can be a collaborative project. You can collaborate with someone you saw, like, hey, you're doing amazing work. Would you like to collaborate on this project with me, and we can create something amazing on this? And that kind of collaborative work, if you put on your portfolio, will be amazing, because then the recruiters will see like, wow, so you're not only good at working by yourself, but you're also good at working in a team. So I think these are the top alternates you have for a hackathon at this point. And I think a big portion of hackathon is networking. And that network is in form of working first with someone, and then getting in touch with them and building that professional relation. Utilize LinkedIn more and more. And I think in pandemic, people are relying more on these digital tools. I would like to see the data for that, but I wonder how much people have started to become more active on LinkedIn now that they have less events to go out to attend in networking.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of it has to do with also bringing value to the community. Okay, content creation is great, but also does it bring value to the community that you are trying to serve? I know a lot of us are encouraged to write blog posts, and I have to agree with that it's very helpful to showcase the project that you are very excited about, especially if the project is unique. And I guarantee you it would help somebody out there, and somebody would find it useful.
Exactly. And yeah, I think the most important part in the process, whatever you do, is actively look for feedback, because that will really help you see all the blind spots you have.
Absolutely, because I feel like when you just stare at your code for too long, you stop. Even if there are bugs or not, regardless, you just like stop seeing bugs or imperfections. All you see is just your own code. But when you get a fresh pair of eyes to look at your work, it could make a tremendous impact on the quality of your work.
Exactly.
Wow.
But I do agree that the setting of the hackathon, and actually more in-person hackathon, is not easy to replace. It's not easy to get other than hackathon. It's just you have everyone just so excited and ambitious trying to get something up and running. And then I think the best part is that you see people struggle a lot. You see people being so frustrated, um, that, and by the end, like for me, when I was in the start weekend on by Sunday, it's like, okay, whatever, just put whatever we have and let's see how that goes. It'll be okay. We just need to get the presentation up and running. And so if we don't win, well, it's not the end of the world and all these things. And yeah, and I was completely not expecting us to win. So that was that made me even more surprised, because I was not, okay, we did good work. I want to see me, like, I wanted to see myself, our team win, but I was like, we could have done so much better. We could have been so much better, right? So that kind of that I didn't have that expectation. So even at the DSCO, when other teams are presenting, it's like, wow, they have amazing insights. Wow, they have amazing visuals. Wow, their models are done so well and everything. So when they announced that, oh, the best insights is team two, it's like, wait, what?
That's how I was. I was like, we won the best insight a word. It was incredible. I honestly did not see that coming.
Right. And then I went to the pitch deck and see what insights we actually showed. And then I see all the insights we had. It's like, right, actually they're not that bad. Actually, that makes sense.
I mean, we didn't have much time, but we worked pretty hard. I worked through the lunch break trying to get the regression model situated.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, that makes sense now. But it also shows how you actually underestimate yourselves a lot of times, and you need to kind of have people to help you look through that. What you have is something good, is something valuable, and there always is room for improvement. But that doesn't mean that you're nothing right now, right? So I think a lot of people have that all or nothing mindset, that either they're amazing data scientists or they're completely new to it, right? They don't have that mind. A lot of people, or maybe some people, don't have that mindset that, okay, I'm improving. Yes, I don't know this, but I'll get better when in time. But I'm comfortable with this, and I can do this really well. So it's just that we are obviously looking at other people and just so intimidate ourselves that, oh, I'm not at their level, so I'm not a good data scientist, or I'm not a good machine learning engineer, I'm not a good data analyst, right? So it's a very, like, it's like, once you have that mindset of it's a constant learning and the learning never stops, then you realize that what you have right now is also good enough.
Absolutely. It's very important to give yourself credit for, even for small victories. It's not necessary for the product to be perfect or best. It has to be good enough to show, good enough to provide the basic functionality or whatever that product is, whatever you're coding for. And it's also very important to remind yourself that there will always be somebody with more experience, more schooling than you, and more years of experience, and so on and so forth. It's just a process. So don't give in into the slippery slope of imposter syndrome.
Hmm,
Just instead focus on growth mentality.
exactly.
Wow, we almost chatted for the whole hour. It was
Wow.
really awesome. But before we do wrap up, do you have any last moment advice to our listeners? Maybe there is a Medium blog that you like to follow, maybe there is a book that you like to recommend, or maybe there is a good podcast out there that you enjoy.
Right. So definitely in terms of book recommendation, one of my favorite book is Deep Work by Cal Newport. And I think it's really well written, and something in today's world where we like just so like busy with lives and all these things, it's really important to have that kind of work as well. If you're talking about in the more data science, and if you want to are more interested in visualization, I think storytelling with data really helps you polish your data science like visualization skills. And I think in terms of fiction, if you want to go there, any novel by Neil Gaiman is my favorite novel. The author Neil Gaiman. So one of his favorite famous books is American Gods. So it's in fiction. So I think that's pretty nice. In terms of blogs, podcasts, I think so. I listen to different themes of podcasts. So in data science, obviously, Super Data Science by Krill is pretty good. There are other Data Banana and like a linear regression podcast there. But other than data science, I also listen to some self help and health and nutrition podcasts. So one of my favorite is Feel Better, Live More. The hosts have some amazing guests. Talk about a lot of different aspects of life that really helps you improve your own self. The health, what is it called? The National State podcast by Dr. Anthony Augustine. It's about more keto focus, but it really kind of talks about um, the mindset in health and nutrition that I think we should all aim for in trying to get more whole food and kind of look for like how to improve our diets and everything. So I have a very variety of interest. But I think one advice that I would like to give to the audience is, especially assuming that you are in the science and you are learning, is that we all struggle finding time to learn consistently, right? It's hard to take up time every day to actively learn this and this and this. In that case, it's go easy on yourself, but create an environment around you that ensures that there's kind of a passive learning, that there's some background noise around you that is still helping you learn about that. So, for instance, when I'm on my phone, I can see I have put the Medium blog on their science on my home screen, so I can see them more clearly, right? So I can, if there any title text me, I'll read that. When I'm commuting, instead of listening to Spotify, I listen to podcasts on the way, and during lunch hours, walking around. I think audiobooks and podcasts are my favorite things to listen to when I'm just traveling or commuting, right? So this kind of like really helps you create this environment, this kind of bubble around you, which is talking about data science and machine learning and different ideas thrown at you, and you're not absorbing everything all the time, but there is a bit of kind of passive learning there that kind of keep you involved and motivated. And obviously, once you're more actively learning, that you can benefit from that as well.
Actually, I do like this trick because our life is full of distractions. And if you must yield to distractions, you might as well just make them informative.
Exactly, exactly. Uh, and I think that's where I really enjoy the podcast. There is such a good tool to kind of even a lot of times I kind of start daydreaming about something else and the podcast going behind, but I at the end benefit from having that. Okay, I'll have this conversation. I understand the gist of it, and if that the topic interests me, then I can look and more into it. But it's just that we need to modify our environment, right? Because we cannot. We otherwise we will be using our willpower to push ourselves every day, and willpower is limited, in my opinion, and we'll exhaust ourselves way too early.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I did read the Deep Work book that you recommended by Cal Newport, and I definitely I found it so useful because the willpower is indeed a limited resource, and we don't always think about it this way. And we have to find the way, the source to recharge our willpower as
Hmm.
quick as possible so that we can return to our productivity.
Right, exactly. And I think at the end of the day, whatever works for you, just go easy on yourself. We give ourselves a bit too much hard time, thinking that the more tough we are to ourselves, the more motivated we can make ourselves be. But I think just give yourself time and think, and always think that in this moment, at this time, you're good enough. And with time, you'll be improving. But right now, you're not like you don't need something right now to be happy. What you have right now is good enough for you to be too happy right now.
Yeah, I definitely like that approach, the good enough mentality. Yeah, I don't know how many people over there need to hear this, but good enough. Those words will save a lot of us a good chunk of anxiety, I have to say. It
Exactly.
applies to me for sure.
Yeah. It's a very simple thing, but I think it's hard to keep that constantly in your mind, because in today's world with digital like media, like you see everyone succeeding on LinkedIn, right? You feel that, oh wow, and I'm still in this job right now. What should I do? But I think everything happens in time. Um, if you're putting in effort, the results will come.
Absolutely. But that's the thing with social media, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram, even. Everybody's succeeding on social media. It's social media.
Exactly.
I feel like just keep doing your work, keep at it, keep your eyes on the prize, stay focused on your goal, and you will get there one day.
Exactly. And enjoy the process. I think the most important, enjoy the process of learning, enjoy the process of failing. And
Absolutely. Fail fast, fail often, fail cheap, and keep going. Wow, we had such an amazing conversation today. I feel like we have uncovered so many helpful insights, and I'm really hoping it would inspire some people to join a hackathon, or if not hackathon just yet, just to keep keep working on achieving their goals and bettering themselves every single day. Well, that's it on my end, and thank you so much, Ali, for coming to the show today. It
thank you so
was
much.
it was an amazing conversation. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.